What's up, guys? It's Rumblin, man, coming to you tonight from the Florida Gulf Coast. Here, central Gulf Coast of Florida. Hope you are doing well. And no, I am not that doctor that makes you sit in the waiting room for a half hour before you finally get into their office. I'm not that restaurant manager that when you're waiting to come in and fill out an application, makes you sit there 20 minutes before they come and pay attention to you, etc., etc., etc. I am your friendly neighborhood rumbling man, and I might be 1 minute late as I just now was, but that is not the end of the world. It's just another day. So, how are you all doing? I want to hear who's here with me. My nose itches a little bit. Please be with me while I scratch it. It is so good to be here tonight. Do we have a special guest this evening, you may say? And my answer may be, I don't know. However, I do encourage after you check out this broadcast tonight to go back and watch some of my recent broadcasts, which generally occur every other Tuesday night or so, sometimes Wednesday. Go back and watch some of the recent ones, and you can see some great interviews with special guests. Most recently, 2 weeks ago tonight, I did this with Jeremiah Grube, worship leader and manager for OnSong, and that was probably my favorite broadcast I've ever done. Also did one with Alan Brown, aka Bully the Kid, who is another YouTuber, another music influencer here on the YouTube. And that went great. He's a really cool guy. It's been a big blessing to form a friendship with another influencer out there. And yeah, total blessing. Did another one with Chris Volpini, who works with MJC Ironworks Strings. And I think I have some of those strings around here somewhere, but MJC Ironworks makes very, very cool strings. There's a review on my channel that I'll link up later in the description of me demoing some bass strings from them. And I think you'll like this video, and I think you'll like these strings. I'm probably more of a nickel-plated steel guy in terms of bass strings than I am a stainless steel guy, but I got to tell you, I love these stainless steel bass strings. So what are your favorite bass strings? Rounds, flats, neons, whatever. Let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to hear. So, guys, tonight we got some cool things to discuss. I've got some ideas, tips, and tidbits that I want to give you. And mostly I'm going to be kind of following the wind from within. And essentially, I did not chart out any necessary plan. We may have a guest appearance. We may not. But we got some great content tonight. Real quick, though, let me mention, if you're just a couple business as usual things, if you're watching on the playback, the things that I talk about tonight, products that I discuss, the links to where you can check out those products for yourself will be in the description of this video. Also, any videos I happen to mention, the links to those will be in the video description as well. So I want to make sure that I link that stuff up so that you can check it out when you're done. But first, please stay right here with me, your friendly neighborhood Rumblin' Man, right here on The Rumble Show or The Rumblin' Man Show. What should I call my show, guys? Right here on the Rumblin' Man channel, we review music equipment. We talk gear. We do gear tutorials, and we check out guitars, basses, pedals, strings, you name it. If you play a guitar or a bass, or if you do home recording, we make content that'll be valuable for you. So make sure you go on and hit that subscribe button. Also want to talk to you real briefly about Patreon and PayPal. I do have ways that you can become a crowdfunding supporter of the channel. Obviously, not everybody can afford to do that, but I am very blessed that I've had few people do so far. Oh, look, I'm seeing a few friends here. My buddy Jay Lopez is a friend and Patreon supporter. And by the way, if you support on Patreon on the $10 tier or more a month, you get inducted into my secret Facebook group, Rumblin' Man Insiders, people who hear what I'm going to do before I even do it. It's really cool. And quite honestly, if anybody signs up in the next 24 hours for any tier of my Patreon, I'll let you in the insiders group, even if you're on the $2 tier. So make sure you head over to my Patreon and sign up to be a supporter of the channel. I think there's never been a better time to get involved with the work that I'm trying to get going here at Rumblin' Man. I really think that there's never been a better time to be involved with it because of all the years that I've been making content. My personal belief is that I'm making the best content now that I've ever made. And I believe that this channel is going to escalate to higher success. We're about to cross 3,600 subscribers. well over 500,000 views, working with some companies to bring you great music gear related content. There's never been a better time to be a subscriber or to be a supporter in the history of the channel. So hop on this boat because we are going sailing. And I really believe, as I'm going to be working hard on this thing, I really believe that this channel is just going to get better and better and better. And I want you along for the journey. I want to hear your thoughts on things. I want to hear what your favorite gear is, because one of the biggest reasons that I'm here is to make friends and to influence people in a positive way. So I've got a couple comments here already. Guy from Quebec. He's not actually from Quebec. Good evening, Daniel. Jay Lopez says, Buenos noches, amigo. I happen to know a little bit of Spanish, Jay Lopez, and I know that you are Jennifer Lopez, and I really love your song, Jenny from the Block. Of all the movies that you're in, I can't really pick a favorite. You know, The Wedding Planner has been on TV way too much over the years. What's the one where you danced with the guy from Arbitrage? I like that one. Just kidding. His name is not Jennifer. He is Johnny. Roto Sound Swing Bass 6.6 round stainless steel is Guy's favorite bass strings. No, it was not Anaconda, Jay Lopez. Guy, I've never tried Roto Sounds. For years, people have mentioned Roto Sound to me. I was in a Sam Ash up in Clearwater one day with some in my hand about to check out, but I didn't do it. I should probably try Roto Sounds because they are one of the only brands that I've not yet tried. But honestly, if you were to ask me, Rumblin' Man, what's your favorite bass strings? I probably couldn't tell you. Honestly, for so many years, I loved Elixirs. Every time I got a set of Elixir, you know, round wound bass strings and put them on a bass, I just felt like $1,000,000, and my bass felt like $1,000,000. And I used to love them, but the thing is, for a set of those, you spend $60. And quite honestly, is it worth the $60? Looks to me like Roto Sounds last a long time from what Guy says, and that's an excellent thing. You know what's funny for me is I like to change strings just for the fun of it. I do love DR strings. I have Black Beauties on my 5-string jazz. I have DR flats, which are the legend strings on my old Gibson Grabber. I've got Black Beauties on the bass up at the church with some Seymour Duncan pickups that I recently reviewed. You need to check out that video. I like a lot of DR strings as strings. However, I've yet to find a set of DR strings that I think sound great in a mix. Quite honestly, when it comes to round wounds, I haven't yet found anything that I like better than these that Chris Volpini sent me, these MJC Ironworks. So they could become a new favorite. Jared Knisley, been watching your videos from way back. I still remember the SX versus road-worn Fender and things before that. Very cool, Jared. Man, that's so awesome. Sometimes I do get comments from guys who've been watching for that long, and I think it's so funny. But yeah, man, I loved that road-worn P bass. I don't have either one of those basses anymore. I traded the SX to my friend Ed. The road-worn I sold to Eat back in Seattle when I lost my job. So fun, right? But yeah, man, those were good times. Jared, I was always I was on the road a lot, you know, singing gospel and playing in a gospel group. And I'd be in a hotel room and I'd talk to my wife on the phone for a little bit. And then I'd be like, okay, how much time do I have before we go play? You know, and then I would just try to make a video or something. And so a lot of those videos I have taken down, but a lot of them are still up and have been a blessing to people. So I'm really thankful for that. And then I took a break for a while after moving to Florida. But I am back in black as of early 2018. And so this past year, I got really serious about the channel, and I've gotten into, you know, all the things that YouTubers get into, trying to make a go of it here on YouTube. So if you guys like the content, oh, you too, Guy, that's awesome, man. If you guys like the content, feel free to tell your friends about it and share my social media and stuff like that. Ultimately, I want to talk gear, unite musicians in gear, have some great discussions and friendships, and just more than anything, be a blessing to musicians and help however I can. So that's kind of the mission, the out front mission there. So I hope you guys are doing great tonight. I want to talk a little bit about home recording, Because here's the thing, if you are a musician, then at some point in time, you have felt the desire to make recordings in your home. If you are a bass player, a guitar player, a singer, a producer, no matter what you are, at some point you have wanted or wished you had or built a home studio. It's inbred within the veins of musicians. It's what we are. Now, back in my dad's day, playing in the 70s and 80s, it wasn't really possible to do until the late 80s when you could get a DAT machine and a drum machine and plug up your mixer and go for it. In fact, I remember my dad doing that in our garage when I was a kid. Not to give away my age. I identify as older than I am. That's a discussion for later. But it became possible. So for me, growing up watching my dad make work tapes of his music in the garage, so I kind of started dabbling with recording when I was about 15, and I started recording a Cakewalk Pro Audio. Thank you, Sonic Boom. I appreciate that very much, my friend. Good to see you on here. I've been watching Pro Audio, things of that nature for a while, but I started in Cakewalk and just making recordings of my own songs. And man, I don't even want to hear those recordings. They suck so bad. You know what I mean? And then I'd be in various bands throughout Franklin, Tennessee, which is where I was based out of as I was growing up. And then I started recording and releasing my own music, started recording music for other people, started playing on some sessions in Nashville. There's a couple albums out by just little known obscure artists that I played, guitar or bass, or maybe sang backups on their project a little bit. And so I got a lot of studio experience in my early days. Chardons, what is up, my man? Good to see you, brother Sean. It is good that you are here, my man. I'm glad you're here. And man, there's a lot of great people in here. This is awesome. Let's have fun. But so I've actually been dabbling in recording since I was 15 years old. And then things took a really interesting turn because in the last few years, my journey with recording started getting better than ever. I'm just constantly learning how to best mic and EQ an acoustic, or how to best record a bass, or electric guitars. Sometimes I'll acquire new technology. And quite honestly, here's what I've discovered. I'm not a guy who has tons. Oh, excuse me. I needed to pop my back there. But I'm not a guy who has tons of budget to work with. In fact, maybe you can share with me in the comments if you have had any experience, trying to put studio stuff together and just you can't really afford to get what you'd like to get. Excuse me as I take a sip of Diet Coke. Very refreshing. Thank you. So you try to acquire stuff to make great recordings, but here's what I've discovered is this past year, not only did I get better with the way I record my music and work on original stuff and the way that I record music for my videos, but I actually became a community producer for Loop Community. And Loop Community makes worship backing tracks. And so it's really cool. I haven't made a ton of money on there or anything. I have sold some of my worship backing tracks that are being used in churches, around America, as far north as Minnesota, I think. So pretty cool. And I've learned a lot during that process. I've learned more and more and more. I just keep learning and learning and learning. And I want to share some of that knowledge, which, I mean, you guys are musicians and you've done a lot of things and you know a lot of things. But what I've discovered is that you don't have to have a boatload of money to start a small home studio. And I will link up the products I'm about to talk about. I will link them up in the description of this video after the broadcast, so that if you're watching the playback, that there will be links to the things I'm going to talk about. But here's what I really think you need in order to produce some great recordings at home. And you're going to be shocked by how much you don't need. Okay. Number one, you need a computer, and you need a computer that's good enough and fast enough and operates well enough to sustain audio recording. I'm talking to you right now on an Apple MacBook Pro laptop. That is a perfect way, to get started. So you need that. And then you need recording software. But here's the thing. Look, the industry standard is the industry standard, but I'm not reaching for the industry. I'm not trying to be a Nashville country music producer. I'm trying to be me, producing the kind of music I want to produce and not adhere to, what the industry says I have to be. So here's the thing, you don't have to have Pro Tools. You don't have to have Logic. You don't have to have Cubase. I mean, any of those programs are incredible. And you can't go wrong by getting one of them. But for starting, quite frankly, there are some minimum cost programs. And by the way, forget Ableton, okay? But I'm sorry. But for starting, there are some minimal cost programs that can really help you out. For one thing, for Mac users, and I think there's probably even a version you can get for PC, and it's either going to be free or it's going to be really affordable, is just simply GarageBand. Back in the day when I started recording in GarageBand, it was not the GarageBand of today. It was the GarageBand of yesterday, and I thought it was cool, and I thought that I was making great recordings, but I go back and listen to them now and realize that I was wrong. But GarageBand today, it's interesting. It's affordable. It's made by Apple at this point, and it is kind of Logic's younger brother. Like if you can't spend, the $300 or whatever to get Logic, well, GarageBand today has a lot of the same technology. I don't necessarily recommend this as a primary method of recording guitars unless it's all you have, but there's some really cool amp simulators and pedal simulators for recording electric guitar in GarageBand. There's some for bass as well, but I would rather you just plug straight into your interface and record the dry signal than use their bass effects. They suck. But GarageBand will allow you to do all these things, record vocals, and it's easy to learn. It's got sounds in it. Quite honestly, when I record synths, I'm either using up at the church our Yamaha Motif XS8, or I'm using some kind of MIDI controller, and I'm just using GarageBand stock sounds. As weird as that sounds, nobody's going to know the difference. Nobody's going to listen. Well, okay, maybe a well-tuned ear that, plays around with synths a lot, but nobody's going to listen and be like, wait a second. Okay, now when I see a commercial and they're using a GarageBand loop, okay, I'll recognize that. All right, but if they're using a GarageBand sound or patch for a pad, nobody's going to notice that. Give me a break. And they have great drums. For instance, I mean, I often will play drums on my iPad and then move them around later and fix it all, quantize everything. But they also have a drummer feature where you can just kind of use loops they automatically have and put it all together, make your own track. There's even a way that it'll play along with you. So GarageBand is actually a great way to get into the world of audio recording from home. So you need those two things. Here's another thing you're going to need. You need an interface. And when I say interface, you need something that is going to be like a little box with some knobs on it and some inputs that's going to go USB into your computer, and that you're going to be able to plug either Mike's XLR and or quarter-inch inputs into it so that you can get your sound from the instrument or piece of gear of your preference and into the computer. One thing that I did right with my channel is from day one, I started using an interface even with making videos. And I have the interface that this microphone is plugged into right now is the same interface that I was carrying around with me on the road when I made the early Rumblin' Man videos. I don't even know what it is. USB dual pre, and it says the word art on it, ART. All right, it's got 2 channels and it goes right in, and I've been recording with this thing forever. Or there's inboxes, or that you can go on Amazon and you can even find like an overseas made computer interface for really cheap, even though some of them don't work as of a recent experience of mine. And later I'll put a link up there to the experience I'm talking about. So you need a computer, you need the software you're going to use, you need an interface, because you're going to need to plug your mics into an interface, guitars, whatever you're using, etc. At this point, I've got a couple different interfaces that I use. I've got this one that I'm going to use for mics and recording direct instruments a lot as well. For guitars these days, I have access to a Line 6 HX Stomp, which can plug straight in and be an interface. For bass, I'll use that, or I'll use a Zoom B3N. So there's a lot of options out there for interfaces. And if you can't afford a lot to start, you'll kind of just collect things over time. Don't expect to have your best rig when you first start out. Okay. But you need an interface in order to get your recorded sound going. And you need to figure out, okay, what am I going to use for my bass tones? What am I going to use for my guitar tones? Here's another thing you're going to need. You need a condenser microphone, such as the one I'm talking to you on right now. Now, for instance, this is a Tonor condenser mic. There is a link in the description of this video where you can check out this product on Amazon, and a link, I believe I put a link in there where you can go and you can see my full review of this thing. Now, here's the thing. You get a product from overseas, it's not going to perform as well as American made products, usually. Usually. Now, that's not always, but usually. I have in here an AKG Perception 22 that's a really great condenser mic. But this is a good enough condenser mic that I'm talking to you on it right now. And I've mic'd acoustic guitars with this, and it sounded just fine if you know what you're doing with some EQing after the fact. $48 with this condenser mic. You get the mic, you get two different, you get a windscreen and a pop filter, whichever you want to use. Obviously, this is really good for talking like on a radio show. You get this X-brace stand that I've just got clamp mounted on something. There's a couple cables that come with it. You get an interface that doesn't work unless you have a graphic card. All right. But here's the thing. It doesn't cost an arm and a leg to get a condenser microphone. This whole set you can get for 48 bucks on Amazon. But if you check out Fine, which is another company whose products I review from time to time, they make, condenser mics as well. And you can find those on Amazon. And man, just for getting started, you don't have to have the top of the line condenser mic to get started. Now, some people watch this and throw tomatoes at me and disagree, but I will take those tomatoes off the ground and throw them in a trash can. And I'll say, listen, guys, I'm not talking to the Nashville studio producers of today. I don't care about the Nashville studio producers of today. What I care about is helping people record their music and record it well. So you need a computer, you need an interface, you need the software, you need a condenser mic, and then also you need to figure out what your bass and guitar effects will be. Here's a tip for recording acoustics. Don't plug it in. All right. I have seen in a professional studio in Nashville, a producer who didn't know what he was doing, say to a friend of mine, okay, yeah, maybe we should like plug it in and put a mic in front of it. No, because an acoustic guitar pickup, unless it's the Taylor ES2, which I'll address in a moment, an acoustic guitar pickup is always going to have that piezo crunch to it. Okay. That piezo crunchy sound that we all can identify upon contact with our ears. That is that of an acoustic guitar pickup. Now, this particular brand right here makes an amazing pickup. I have recorded with it and it sounded fine, but still, you can still really listen and tell that it's a pickup. Okay. If it's an undersaddle piezo pickup, it's always going to sound like an undersaddle piezo pickup. And then Taylor Guitars has the Expression System 2, the ES2, and that pickup does move away from the sound of the piezo crunch. However, it is the most squeaky, mid-rangey, feedbacky, horrible pickup I've ever heard in my life. So when you're recording acoustic guitars, you want to avoid plugging it in directly and you want to mic it, which is another reason that you need a condenser microphone. You've got an SM57, that's okay, for mic and amps and stuff. Really, when it's going to come to voice and when it's going to come in to miking acoustic guitars, a 58 or something. Look, I've tried and I've gotten okay sounds, but it took a lot of work and it wasn't even as good with hard work as it is just going with a cheap condenser microphone. So you want to mic acoustics with a condenser microphone. For me, the most power I've found with electrics is if I have a really chunky, slightly overdriven rhythm and I record it twice the same way and pan it hard left and hard right. Because if you've got drums in the center, lightly dispersed, you got bass in the center, to have some variation and pan the electrics hard left and right. Other electric parts pan in the middle, maybe two acoustic parts, either pan slightly or pan hard left and hard right. And then you've got your ambient pads and keyboards and vocals right there in your face. These are the makings of a mix that doesn't sound like it was done on the budget. One more thing you're going to need is a way to hear yourself while recording. And I'll show you how I hear myself. All right. I used to have speakers I used, and I don't right now. So check this out. What do I use? I use my in-ear monitors from church. Not even joking. You probably can see me with these in my ears in a ton of my videos. This is what I use to mix, etc. You know why? Because it's going to be a pretty honest tone. You can get a set of these for 120 bucks and they last a year or so. Okay. So, really, you don't have to have the top level studio monitor speakers of the day in order to hear what you're doing and hear it well. So I want to know a little bit about your setup and what you're using, but I honestly think you need an honest way of hearing yourself, something that's not super cheap, that's not going to alter your mix. You need a condenser mic, you need an interface, you need a computer, you need the software, your DAW, your DAW of choice. And I mean, what else do you need to get started? I mean, that's what you need to get started. And quite frankly, some of the best recordings I've made, like I recorded the electric guitar sitting on the couch and I mixed it laying in bed late at night. And it's simply because if you have a working knowledge of mixes and how to get great sounds and how to work with what you got, then you can take your humble setup and you can really do something nice with it. And that applies in a lot of areas in life. Jared says Tascam 4-track was his first attempt at home recording and it was horrible. Guy remembers that from the 80s. Let's see what else we got here. Interfaces come with basic recording software. Yes. Yes, that's a great way to go, man. If there's an interface that has software with it. Shardens likes the mic. Thank you, Shardens. I think you have one of these, don't you? You have one of the Tonor microphones. Somebody commented on my video saying, hey, it's Toner. It's Toner, not Tonor. But you know what? It's Tonor. And just because you commented, bro, I'm going to say Tonor the rest of my life. I don't know who that guy was. I may have even deleted the comment. Acoustic, I prefer one close mic, then a room mic. That is very smart, Jared. It's very wise. One thing that I do with recording acoustics is my placement of the mic is not always going to be right in front of the sound hole, but it's usually going to be a little bit left of the sound hole so that I avoid some of those big and bassy notes. And then to have the acoustic not distasteful and overpoweringly low in the mix, especially if recording with a big body like a Dreadnought over here, I will always EQ out the low end and low mids. What about acoustic bass? How to record? Good for solo rehearsal, just picking it up and starting to play. Here's what I'd say, Sonic Boom, for recording acoustic bass. I would make sure you've got a phantom powered condenser microphone. Make sure you've got some way of pushing the gain up to where it can be heard. And then I would really mess around with digital compression and EQing after the fact. As far as acoustic basses themselves go, a lot of companies make decent ones that are of affordable quality. I will say this, I once had and even reviewed on this channel, don't even know if it's still up, like a Grand Concert, Ibanez Sage or something. Total piece of junk, man. Man, it was such a piece of junk. The Dean acoustic basses are pieces of junk. Who even makes a good one? Like Taylor discontinued that really cool acoustic bass they always made, and instead they chose to make the GS Mini bass, which is just a complete waste of wood, in my opinion. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. As you can see, I'm not too hot on Taylor right now. Honestly, the great acoustic basses I've played, one that actually kind of blew me away was called the Fender Kingman, and it was a big Dreadnought acoustic electric bass. The neck was kind of like that of like an old jazz bass or bass guitar that was an electric. It's kind of got the signature Fender headstock, but I thought that one was pretty cool. Takamine makes some great acoustic electric basses, and when you go with Takamine, that you're always going to get a great product in terms of electronics and build, unless you go dirt cheap. I want to say that Michael Kelly makes one. I don't know why I want to say that, but yeah, as far as acoustic bass goes, I've there's been a lot of moments in my time, and maybe some of you guys can chime in and tell me if you have any experience. There's been a lot of times when I wanted to get one, but then I would realize, wait, I don't need it for anything. I just want to play it around the house, and then I should be playing one of the ones I'm going to use live. There was a particular time when I was traveling and playing one live every night, but I don't know. It's not every day that you need it, but there are definitely applications. In fact, The special guest who was gonna come on tonight but had a conflict knows a lot about acoustic basses because he has 5 of them. So if he comes on, we will talk. Christopher, blah, 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 blah. Jay Lopez, how many channels? I want to record keys, bass, acoustic, and drums. Jay Lopez, if you're wanting to do all of that at the same time, um, then you're gonna have to get into some serious setup, like if it's like a whole band playing at once. But if you're just doing all that by yourself, um, for one thing, keys, honestly, I would get like a keyboard controller. If you can get one that's 88 keys or even less, great. One that you can plug up USB and then you can use, software sounds like from like GarageBand or a program like that and record keys that way just by, plugging a keyboard in USB. For for recording bass, I have found that a lot of the interface type amp modelers that work great for guitar these days will work great for bass as well. I have found that Line 6 HX Stomp works really good for bass, but I've also found that it has challenges as well. So really for bass, I mean, you could get like a Zoom Q2N or Q3N, and that's a pretty cool bass interface. Really just anything that does bass amp modeling well. Quite honestly though, some of the best recorded bass sounds that I've ever gotten, I didn't use anything. I just plugged the bass straight into a regular interface and recorded the dry signal and compressed it, and that was it. So you can do that with bass, whereas you can't for electric guitar. And then for electric guitar, I mean, there's so many different things. I would check out the Line 6 Amplify, where you can kind of plug it in and use it as your interface and as your monitor out and everything, and then you can kind of adjust the tones on an iPad, or there's other Line 6 products. There's also great software for recording both bass and electric guitar. If you want to do that instead of getting an actual unit, there's Helix Native, but also Line 6 makes one called Pod Farm, which I think you can get in the App Store for about $100 and has pretty decent sounds as well. So really, there are ways to get decent sounds out of cheaper software. You just need to be prepared to put in the work and get it EQ'd the way you want. So obviously, man, if you've got your guitar, you know what you're going to use for your instruments, you know what kind of software or whatever you're going to use for them. You got your mic. Really, all you need is one interface. If everything else you're using that you're not going to plug into the interface has USB on its own, and even then, I mean, I've done plenty of going out a keyboard left and right, stereo into an interface, and I've never been in a situation in which I needed more than 2 channels. Thoughts on short scale basses? I tried out a Gretsch short scale bass, the 200 or whatever, and I liked it a lot. I want to say that I recently had some thoughts about a short scale bass, and then I decided to stop thinking about it. No, here it is. Okay. Short scale, here's the thing. I don't really play short scale basses just because I like long scale basses, but for smaller hands, smaller frames, or if you want it to feel more like a guitar, I mean, there are obviously some great options out there. What I have discovered is a Fender Mustang is just one hell of a way to go shorter scale. I saw a band called We Are Roses at the House of Blues Orlando a few months back, and the bass player was a female bass player, and she was playing a Fender Mustang bass that is still applicable today. It's still out there, still made. I'll hook up, link it up later. But it's a PJ Mustang bass, and it's not the smaller split coil P style pickup. It's actually a full blown precision pickup with a J pickup in the bridge, and the thing is about $600, like on par with the Player Series. And so if I were looking to go shorter scale, I would just go with a Mustang. There's also an American Performer Mustang bass and an American Pro Mustang bass, and there's Bronco basses. So my kind of approach would be to stick with something classic like that. But that Gretsch, I don't forget what it's called, like a G220 or something, I forgot. But that is also a really good options. Jay Lopez says, what would a room mic work? What do you mean by room mic? You mean setting a mic in the middle of the room? and then going to the four corners of the room and playing an instrument in each corner, like play guitar in one corner and then run to the other corner and play bass. I don't know. But Jared, that's kind of my thoughts on short scale basses. I've just never really been into them. You know what I mean? Um, I know that SX, some people really like SX's short scale basses. Some people get them by mistake. Some people get them for fun. Me personally, I'd be more inclined to go with some kind of weird, uncommon model like a Mustang or something. So recording live in the attic using room mics. I still don't know what you mean. What's a room mic? It's kind of a dumb thing of me to ask. Do you mean like a condenser mic that you just put in the middle of the room? Or like the kind that you hang down for the choir to sing into at church? I don't understand. I don't get it, Jay Lopez. What do you mean you're not painting an accurate picture for me to put my mind to? I don't know. Acoustic-ish feel condenser mic. I think that's a good call for an acoustic-ish feel. Like if you did all your instruments acoustically, obviously, a condenser mic can record an electric amplifier. The world of miking amps is so incredibly crazy. But yeah, I mean, I don't see why not, or at least give it a try. But I have never particularly taken that approach. So you have got one up on your friendly old neighborhood Rumblin, man, my friend. So sorry that I couldn't answer that one well. But yeah, great convo, guys. And if you've got other questions that I can help answer or cool thoughts from me, I would love to hear them. So, kind of what I just issued is my philosophy that to record from home and to produce your own recordings of your own songs or your own music, you just don't have to spend a fortune to do so. Say you get a Mac laptop, refurbished for, $600. Say you get an interface for, 150, you get some software for $50. Well, there's most of what you need right there, and you spent way less than $1,000. So I think it's an interesting case in the world. I don't really know how studios survive because somewhere there's a myth. There's still that myth that you have to be in a studio to get a good recorded sound. But when it all comes down to it, myself and other people who produce from home are proof that that's not necessarily the case. I will say this, though, there is something about the articulation of the element of the permutation of when you do go into one studio, record your drums and your amps and stuff real professionally there. And there is something about it that does all come together well. That said, though, the wrong hands at the control board, man, I've heard some terrible recordings come out of studios as well. So this thing can be done. I'm thinking about releasing some more videos about home recording, some tutorials with different software, microphone strategies, amp modeling strategies, things of that nature. So if you would be interested in seeing videos like that, let me know. It would all just simply be to impart my knowledge for those out there who are just getting into home recording or who have been in it for a while and want to know some strategies that I've picked up on and learned from other producers and from trial and error that have worked pretty good in getting some pretty dynamite tracks together. So pretty blessed. I'm still learning a lot of things though, man. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know. Sometimes I'll listen to one of my mixes and I'll be like, why is this mix not as powerful as I want it to be? And then I'll usually realize what I did wrong, but sometimes I won't. So who knows? But yeah, man, it's an interesting subject because I think every musician has some desire or another to be able to record their music from home. I'm in a situation right now which I'm kind of writing some songs and I'm getting ready to gear up to do something. I don't know what that thing is going to be. But also think about this, where's the most popular worship music coming from these days? It's coming out of churches, and before Hillsong and Vertical and Red Rocks and Elevation, got where they are today, I'm sure they all started with a humble recording setup, tinkering around, with the latest software, writing their own worship songs, learning by trial and error, and making stuff right out of their church. And I think it's a great game because at this point in time, if you've got a couple nice cameras, some nice recordings and some money to spend on promoting a couple of videos of it, really any church can produce worship music that will get heard and maybe even covered by other churches. It's just not so hard to do if you have the resources. That said, resources are tight, and that's why for the Rumblin' Man channel, I have PayPal and Patreon in place, and have monetized the channel and things of that nature, because I do have goals and I do have dreams and things that I'd like to improve, but I can't quite reach that level yet. One thing I want to get going in the near future is a better camera. So right now I'm looking at you through the laptop webcam that I have on the Mac here. And then most of the videos that you've seen of me lately, up till this point, the ones made in this room, I'm actually just using my iPad, just the regular stock camera on my iPad. And then for like another view of a pedal or something, I'll use my phone. Literally, I don't have like a camera. I'd like to get, excuse me, man, something got in my throat. I'd like to grab like a Canon M50 or something like that that has a really nice image for YouTubers and a little pull-out screen where you can see yourself and make sure you don't look stupid. But yeah, that's kind of the next step for me, as well as some enhanced lighting, because I want to be able to make videos at night. Right now, like I've got a wall right here that's just windows, and during the day I have this beautiful natural light that comes in here. But at night, this isn't a room with a lot of light in it. Um, so my next level up is going to be, a camera and some lighting, but some exciting things coming up here on the Rumblin' Man channel that I want to tell you about. Some more product reviews. I've been very blessed in recent times because I never really run out of things to review. Excuse me. So some upcoming video things that I don't mind publicly admitting. Fine Fine is a company based in China, and they make microphones, wireless mics. I reviewed their wireless handheld microphone, lapel mic I use in a lot of my videos. I reviewed for them. And I've got another box over here that's like a whole like rack mount thing for wireless lapel mics, and you can like plug two up. So I'm going to be reviewing that. Plenty more microphone related products, because obviously musicians, if you're a singer, vocalist, or if you speak anywhere, you are going to need you're going to need that kind of technology. So that's something I've gotten into recently, but that's not the main thing. That's not the main road I want to head down here, because this channel has always had a bass focus, and in recent times it has a bass and a guitar focus. So that's kind of where I still want to strategize at. I don't know if any of you guys on the chat right now use the Line 6 HX Stomp. It's kind of the most affordable way to get into the technology with Helix's amp modeling by Line 6. And so I released a tutorial just the other day. My first tutorial is just, hey, how to integrate it with your pedal board, because for me it was super confusing getting started, and you find yourself polling online groups and doing all this research just to try to figure something out. You know what I mean? But I'm going to be doing some more tutorials like that. Thinking about doing some recording tutorials and amp modeling tutorials. So getting into the tutorial side of things a little bit, but still keeping the reviews coming. And it looks like there's going to be another collaboration with Fender. I don't want to be too quick to speak because I'm still in the conversation stage about it. But let's just say this is a sticker and I want to put it somewhere. There, maybe there, or hello, my name is Leo Fender. I don't really know. There will be another Fender collab. I've done 2 collaborative videos with Fender themselves. One was of the American Performer Precision Bass. That video has been doing pretty good on YouTube. And then another one was of one of their pedals, which was the Traverb. It's reverb and tremolo in one. Very cool, classic Fender amp sounding guitar pedal. So it's been really cool, because to me, honestly, if you were to ask me, Rumblin' Man, if you could collaborate with any company to make a couple videos of their products, who would you collab with? And it's going to be Fender every time, all day, every day of the week. So we all know that Fender released this new series. So I don't want to speak out of turn because there's nothing on the way yet, but it'll be related to 2 things. It's going to be bass guitar related, and it may very well have some relation to the Fender VINTERA series that just came out this past week, and also to a pedal. So it might be both a pedal and an instrument. Still working on it, but let's take a look together, all together now. Let's take a look real quick at the Fender VINTERA series. I'll talk about this in a sec. I'm not talking about that yet, but I do want to give that guy an awesome shout out for being an awesome human being on the face of this planet. So, Fender's new VINTERA series came out last week. Bump num. And basically, like what Fender's done a lot in recent and past times, they are ultimately re-releases of older guitars. Some of the colors that they have come back out with are colors that are actually classic colors that you haven't seen used in a while. For instance, this blue right here is not Lake Placid and it's not Tide Pool. Forgot what it's even called. Let's go look at it. Ice Blue Metallic. That's an Ice Blue 60s Strat. From what I understand with the pickups, I think a lot of them are Tim Shaw designed. I believe they've gotten pretty close to the vintage instruments that we love so much. Obviously, you're going to find Peo Ferro fretboards instead of rosewood, but what difference does it make? I'm not really sure. Surf green. All right. So I'm stoked about this series because if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong. But if I'm correct, these are actually higher end, made in Mexico instruments that are going to be made in Mexico, but very, very nice, on par with the deluxe Fenders. So Strats, we've got some 50 Strats, a 50 Strat modified, which is going to have a body style and a neck style that's a little more friendly to modern players, or one that's really true to the old deal. You got a 60s Strat. And then I am interested to the core about the VINTERA series 70s Stratocaster. Why, Rumblin' Man? Why are you interested to the core? I'll tell you why, because look at that thing, for one thing. This color is called mocha. Yeah. Man, look at that. So here's the thing. Here's why. One of the guitars I grew up playing that my dad has to this day is a 1979 Fender Stratocaster with a 70s kind of headstock, maple fretboard. It was a maroon color with a black pickguard. And I know that probably the most famous 79 Strat is the one that said anniversary on it. It's not that one. It's actually a maroon colored one, and I grew up playing it. My brother and I jammed on it like almost a year ago at my dad's place in Tennessee. And the guitar still plays great, and it's just vintage to the core, nice and heavy like the old Fenders. And so if this is indeed a representation or a recreation of the 1970s Stratocasters, then I am really, really interested, because quite honestly, I need a good Strat. I just, for playing in worship and then playing, some live appearances here around the Florida Gulf Coast area. And then also for, producing recordings, I use my Telecaster primarily. Other than that, I've got a Jazzmaster that doesn't belong to me. I've got a knockoff Strat, and I've got a Mexi Strat that I don't really dig the pickups at this point. I just want a great Strat, dude. And that is so cool. And if that's an accurate representation of the 1970s Strats, then all I can say is sign me up. I don't have 949 on hand, but I can pray. All right. I can pray. 50s Telly, to me, that might be a little twingy, but to each his own. I think this will be a popular model, and it's one that I'll hopefully request to do a review of down the line, because I think people are going to see that there is a new 60s Telly with a Bigsby and that it's fairly affordable. And I think people are going to be interested. I, for one, am. I often wish there was a Bigsby on my Telly. I often do. But I heard a guy say that a Bigsby ruined his tone, so I've been scared to take the leap. Got 60s Tellys. Then you get into the 70s here, which, man, I just got to tell you, I'm so mesmerized by the beautiful instruments Fender came out with in the models of the 1970s. I mean, you got a VINTERA 70s Telecaster thin line. That has always been a very popular guitar in worship music. Then you've obviously got, the 72 Deluxe. I bet that's going to be very era accurate. Man, there was a time when I wanted a 72 Deluxe style telly so bad. And I still wouldn't mind having one. I just can't make up my mind what I think about them in full. And then you got the Fat Telly. A friend of mine has the Squire Vintage modified one of these that I may do a review of soon. So if we load more, then we get down into further Candyland. I mean, check out that 60s Jazzmaster with the matching headstock. I mean, like that's a worship guitar right there, man. Don't even tempt me. Don't even tempt me, Fender. Stop tempting me. I feel tempted. I mean, some amazing jazz masters. I'm not a Jag guy, so to each his own. And then we get in, my friends, to the basses. No, no, no. Jared mentioned a little while ago, I had done some videos with a Mexican made Fender Roadworn Precision bass. This is going to be really similar to that, but this is the VINTERA 50 precision bass. It's not road worn. It's going to come in the classic old color of Dakota red. What else we got? Seafoam green, and that is the gold anodized aluminum pick guard. Love it. What is this color? Vintage blonde. Oh man, that is vintage to the core. I am vintaged out. My brain just exploded. My brain exploded just now. Vintagey goodness. That's going to be a sweet bass, man. I loved that 50 style P bass I had. This is looking very period accurate to me. I can't wait to, hopefully get one of these in my hands sometime. The neck, it looks to me like the neck is some kind of gloss finish. My obsession with neck finishes. Yeah, that looks like a gloss finish, which would be accurate to the time. So very cool. You can watch Fender's video, or you can watch my video if I review one of these. But yeah, that I'm stoked about that. And obviously, a $900 price point makes it, obviously not cheap. And not, I wouldn't call it affordable, but something you can potentially get your hands on. So that kind of stokes me out a little bit. It makes my brain explode a little. Also, we have a 60s era jazz. For a long time, I really wanted the Squire Classic Vibe 60s jazz. It was a desire of mine for quite some time. Never did get my hands on one, but I think the colors are neat that they have for this. Check out the Fire Mist Gold. Yeah. But personally, this isn't the particular bass from the series that I want, but it is cool. Don't get me wrong. And the Fire Mist Gold is really cool. They probably put it in a fire with lots of mist around. And here we have the VINTERA 70s jazz bass, which I am very interested in. I love 70s style jazz basses. One thing that really defines them is how far apart the pickups are. The bridge pickup, the rear pickup here is going to be in that vintage 70s spacing, giving you a little more trebly, high-end snap to it. Some basses that are made right now that might reflect that are like, the Sire Marcus Miller, V7 Vintage, which my friend Alan Brown, Aka, believe the kid, has demoed on his channel and owns. I like that. I'm very, very interested in this. I did have like one of the Mexican-made, 70s jazz basses. I had it for a couple nights. I couldn't get the action right, so I got rid of it. But I held it in some pictures first. You know what I mean? But I think this is really cool. In fact, this is probably, to me, this and that 50s Precision are probably the most exciting basses in this series. I mean, look at those pearl block inlays. And quite frankly, Peo Ferro, I'm not usually crazy about it, but I gotta say that that Peo Ferro looks really good with those inlays in it. But one of the colors is pretty exciting for me, which is the Inca Silver. Really the only place I've seen Inca Silver show up. I've seen it show up in recent times on some Lakeland basses, as well as some D. Laken basses, creator of Lakeland guitars and basses. Dan Laken has gone out on his own and started making basses, and I've seen some Inca Silver models that Jason Sheff played and gave away and stuff. But man, that looks like a sweet bass. And you know what? Even Elvis Presley had a 70s jazz bass. If you go through the tour at Graceland, sometimes they have it on display. It was a Sunburst 70s jazz bass. I think. But yeah, that Inca Silver rocks, man. If I were to review this one, though, I'd probably go with Aged Natural or Sunburst, because I don't know how Inca Silver would pop on camera. Not quite sure, dude. But the basses look amazing. The only thing I think that they missed an opportunity with one thing though, because so the Vintera basses are going to stop right here with the Mustang bass, and obviously that's a really cool Mustang bass. So if you are looking for like a shorter scale instrument, you know, I'm going to recommend a Mustang bass more than anything. It's not a super short scale, but they're cool. And that's going to be very vintage period accurate. I don't even know what color that is, but that is so vintage. Oh, that's Fiesta. Wow, I didn't even think it was when I first saw it. Fiesta Red and Seafoam. And so, I mean, those are great little beasts of basses. But here's the only place where I think Fender missed an opportunity that I can think of off the top of my head, where I think Fender missed an opportunity with the Vintera series. And obviously, if it's a Victoria series, I think that they will come out with something like this. But I think they missed a great opportunity by not having a 60s precision um, in the lineup. Now they do make other re-releases of 60s precision basses, and quite honestly, knock Squire all you want, but I had a Squire classic vibe 60s precision for quite some time, and I would show up at studios in Seattle with the Squire, my American Standard Jazz, and my Music Man, and I would end up using the Squire. So you tell me. But I want to say this, for precision basses, the 60s, especially around 63, 64, is thought of as kind of a very golden era of the precision basses, especially with rosewood fingerboards. So I don't know why they didn't make a 60s precision bass, because they made a 50s one and then 60s and 70s jazz basses, but no 60s precision bass. Hopefully they will have something like that come out. Guy asks, maple fretboard? I don't know what you mean. What model are you referring to, my friend? Jay Lopez says, have you looked into their new bass pedal? And Jay Lopez, when I mentioned possibly doing a Fender pedal again, that was what I was directly referring to. Chardon says, have you seen the Fender Telecaster Custom FMT-HH? I think they're made in Indonesia. Wow, they look nice, especially the black cherry burst. Very non-traditional with colored head stock. Let me look into that in just a second here, Chardons. I don't know off the top of my head. Guy, as far as the jazz basses go, I don't see a jazz bass with a maple fretboard. So that's another interesting thing about the Vintera series, is they don't seem to have released one of the jazz basses with maple in this particular series. They seem to have only released the precision with maple. I would imagine that Fender is probably testing the waters with this, and these are going to be the initial models from the Vintera series, and someday, obviously, they're going to be very valuable. 40 or 50 years down the line, 30 years down the line. The first run of Vintera, guitars and basses. So I imagine they will make something like that, man. But I don't see it in this particular series yet. But even though I think they should have included a 60s precision, I'm really happy with what I see here. I'm really interested in a lot of these guitars, and I wish I owned one of every one of them, but my name just simply isn't Joe Bonamassa. And I wish that, I had the kind of guitars that he has. Oh my gosh, that guy's got a lot of sweet guitars. If you haven't followed him on Instagram, please do so, but you just be ready to be up all night. Okay, Chardons, let me look into this. Fender Telecaster FMT-HH. Fender Telecaster FMT-HH. Oh, yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about now. Do they even make that anymore? We're about to find out via Sweetwater. Well, they do. I don't know what to tell you, Chardons. I have never played one. It looks familiar. I know that my friend Jeff Roberts, I don't know if he's on here, but he could probably weigh in a little bit, because he's had some guitars at his place similar to this. Duncan Design, humbuckers, and obviously some modern appointments. My guess, Chardons, would be that this is kind of geared toward, modern rock players and slightly heavier music who desire a Telecaster style body shape. So to me, it's going to boil down to what kind of music you're playing. Are you shredding? Well, if so, I think that this would make you quite happy and would certainly work better with the times than, say, an Ibanez shredder guitar. This logo here is very interesting. That reminds me of the logo on the newer Acoustasonic tellies, which makes me wonder. That's an Indian Laurel board. It kind of makes me wonder if my friend Brian Swerdfeger designed these. And honestly, we really need to get Brian on the show sometime because I would talk to him for 10 hours straight. But pretty cool guitar there, Sharns. I will say this. I mean, I would probably, I'd personally would rather play this than, anything else like it out there. Um, if I personally were looking for, a double humbucker telly, I would probably go with like, the VINTERA, 72 deluxe style telly with a wide range humbuckers. That said, though, I think this is probably a really sweet rock guitar. So if you get one, I would love to hear how you like it. And I'd even love for you to bring it down to Florida and let me review it, man. Don't know where you live. If you live in Florida, then you could just drive right over. Let me review it, man. But yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Oh, your son. Yeah, we have talked about guitars for your son before. And this probably would be the type of guitar that would cater to what he might be looking for. It does have that kind of Schecter kind of vibe to it, but it is a Fender, instrument. You got the trustworthy Fender name there, so that could be a good one. The Black Cherry Burst is probably friendly to heavier guitarists. You got Crimson Red, transparent. So if he's an Alabama fan, then you got Amber. I wish I was seeing like a black, ebony. That's a cool body though, man. That really is neat. Shartons, I've never even seen these before. Weird. All the time that I spend doing what we're doing right now, looking at guitars online. What's wrong with me? Oz side, OZ side. Don't know what that is, my friend. Anyway, so really cool new offerings from Fender. I'm really stoked about the VINTERA series. I'm really stoked to review something from them. I am stoked, and it's not a joke. Real quick, also on just announcements about stuff I'm taking a look at right now. I encourage everybody to check out my friend Lauren Petros's pedals, Lauren Petros Design. I came out with a brand new review. Shardens, you're in Australia? Are you seriously in Australia? Or is that a joke? You're not really in Australia, are you? You can't be in Australia. Do you speak with an Australian accent? Hello, mate. 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 Hello, welcome to Australia. I love Australia. I want to visit there so bad. Hillsong is in Australia. Pastor Steve Siokakolati with Discovery Church is in Australia. Seems like a beautiful, beautiful place, Chardon. If you are in Australia, I didn't know about that. Very, very cool. I don't know anything about Australia other than I'd like to check it out. So 2 days ago, I released a brand new pedal review of the Choya Overdrive Boost pedal by Lawrence Petros Design. I think he liked the video and even let me have the pedal, which was really cool blessing to my pedal board. But he makes some great pedals. I don't know if any of you guys have been to Arizona, or even perhaps even honestly, an Australian person would probably really love these pedals, but they're really cool. He's got names like the Cocopelli, the Javelina, the Choya. He makes overdrive boosts, really great boutique drive pedals. And what's cool is with boutique pedals, they're usually going to cost a lot, but these really don't cost an arm and a leg. This is his 74 preamp, which is really cool. And, it runs at right around $200. So really great electric guitar pedals. I think he's got some that can be used for bass as well. This is the Choya that I reviewed the other day, so I definitely recommend checking out my review. I really enjoyed reviewing with it. Pretty cool stuff, man. So I definitely recommend checking out LPD. I just wanted to put a word out there for Lawrence Petros Design. There's a lot of other videos on YouTube of his pedals. Namely, Philip McKnight has reviewed quite a few of them, as Lawrence and Philip are pretty good friends. I actually met them together at NAMM So if you haven't checked out Philip's channel, it's a great channel, one of my favorites. But yeah, LPD pedals. I would love to see these used more frequently in the worship community. But I think we need to get the word out about Lawrence's handmade pedals all the way in Arizona over there. I almost said Australia, Arizona. So if you're looking for a boutique drive pedal right now, looking, for something new to drive your amp with, or even looking for a boost, I definitely recommend checking out my review, and head over to lawrencepetrosdesign.com. Link is in the description, and check out his pedals if you're looking for something new. I think you'll really enjoy what he has to offer. So very cool. Not going to keep you guys too much later. Perhaps Austria. Perhaps you're right about that. I don't know if Chardon's just said Australia just to have fun saying the word Australia, or if Chardon's actually lives in Australia. Curious to know. Guy, does he make any pedals for bass? I need to ask him. In fact, honestly, if you were to email him directly on his website, he'd probably answer you. I don't, obviously there's a lot of guitar drive pedals and preamps that can be used for bass as well. And if he makes anything specifically for bass, I'm not sure at this point. Guy, you like Pastor Steve as well? Yeah, man. Pastor Steve. Yeah, I know he says his name differently than I pronounce it, but I have a tendency to pronounce things as they look. Sio Colanti. But yeah, man, I've been watching his videos for quite some time. A lot of prophetic type things in terms of Christianity, and talks a lot about, end time studies, studying Revelation, and, the end times that we're prophetically told about in the scriptures through the divinely inspired written word of God and Revelation. If you haven't checked out Revelation, great stuff about the end times that are to come. Jesus's letters to the churches, and then the revelation to John. Steve is very smart on that stuff, and also checking out different constellational signs in the sky and how they might line up with scriptural things, some prophetic studies. So yeah, that's another one of my favorite YouTube channels is Pastor Steve Cicolanti, Discovery Ministries in Australia. I got to tell you, if I could ever visit Australia, two churches I would have to go to, like Sunday to Sunday. Actually, they meet on Saturday nights. So maybe on Saturday night, I go to Melbourne and, visit his church, and then drive to wherever Hillsong is and worship there on Sunday morning. Who knows? I got to say, as far as Hillsong goes, man, most of my favorite worship music of all time came out of Hillsong in Australia. I mean, honestly, I don't know if it's been 10 years since the record with like From the Inside Out and those tunes came out. Man, that was some life-changing stuff. And even lately, Hillsong Worship's 2018 album had Who You Say I Am on it and You Are Life, some great songs that have been really encouraging to me in my personal spiritual walk. And also have been doing it at church. And then United has a new album now as well. And we're getting ready to do Good Grace from Hillsong United's new album this Sunday at my church. So pretty cool. So you are a New Zealander living in Australia, Chardons. What in the world, dude? Wow, it's crazy to talk to somebody on another continent. Honestly, I kind of tend to assume that everyone viewing is in the United States. I know that that's like American lameness and closed-mindedness, and it's really not, but it's just because I'm sitting in the United States and because I don't leave the United States much, I just kind of assume that everyone, of my viewers are here. But I hear from people from Canada, Puerto Rico, different countries all the time. So Chardons has a spare room in Melbourne. Oh, cool. That's cool. All right. So I know that if I visit Australia, that I have a place to stay. Thank you, Chardons. But yeah, man, isn't that weird how sometimes, we can assume that everybody viewing is kind of in the general North America area when we got people on islands, other continents. I know Australia is extremely far away. Pretty neat stuff. Honestly, I've never left North America except for when I swim out in the ocean. Honestly, I've gone to Mexico and Canada, but I've never left the North America continent. So I would love to go somewhere overseas and visit. I've often really wanted to go to Israel sometime, or maybe do some mission work in another land. Who knows? Who knows what the future has in store? I'd love for my wife and I to go and check out some place like that. So really cool that you are in Australia. Sonic Boom, are you in Germany? No way. Oh, Canada. Oh my gosh, man, I got people on here from far away. Isn't that weird how you assume everybody's in the United States and they're not? Germany. Wow. You know what's so funny, Sonic Boom, is someone told me that I might be of German descent. I have no idea what my nationality is. Everybody in America or the United States anyway, is going to be some mix of other races and other countries and other backgrounds. But I have no idea what my ancestry is. Could be German, could be Jewish. I don't even know, man. You should come to Germany. We have Thoman. Okay, so I need to go to Australia for a few days and then catch a flight to Germany, right? This sounds awesome. This sounds really cool. Chardons says we're all bros from the same Father, and that is so true. If you are in Christ, covered in his blood today, we are indeed brothers of the same Father, grafted into the promises of old to Israel. So, very excellent point, my friend. But I think it's very cool to get to chat with some guys here who are actually in other lands and other continents, some places I would love to go. The closest I've ever been is the Epcot World Showcase in Orlando. So, pretty cool. 3:11 p.m. or a.m., I guess, where you are, Sonic Boom. That's pretty crazy, man. Quite crazy. Yeah, very cool, man. Very cool that we got some viewers from places that far away here on the Rumblin' Man channel. You put a camera in front of your face and you start a YouTube channel and you think that only your friends and family are going to watch. And then, amen, guy. Praise the Lord for that. Amen. But yeah, man, great time chatting with you guys. Let me think if there was anything else. I was going to have a special guest, but I didn't hear from him. He couldn't get out of a particular commitment this evening. So it kind of ended up being a solo kind of show, but there will be another broadcast. It will not be 2 weeks from tonight. I try to do every other Tuesday night because it's a night that I'm usually open, but 2 weeks from tonight, I will be in my hometown where I came from, which is Memphis, Tennessee. And I'm going to be up there at a show. My dad's band is doing some backing up of some other artists, such as Steve Algeri, formerly of Journey, Matt Scannell from Vertical Horizon, some people like that. So I'm just going to go chill. My dad sometimes will have me come guitar tech for them, but I'm not guitar teching because there's not very many guitars this time. But I'm going to go to Memphis and just chill. So if any of you guys are in the Memphis, Tennessee or Arkansas or West Tennessee area, hit me up. Luis, God bless you as well, my friend. Sonic Boom studied theology because of Savior Machine. It's a great band from the States. I've never even heard of Savior Machine in all my years of listening to Christian music. That's pretty cool, though, man. But yeah, so I'm going to be in Memphis 2 weeks from tonight. So I don't know when the next broadcast will be. Possibly before then, possibly after then. But I will probably, because I did tonight as kind of a solo deal, I will probably bring on a guest and have somebody in line. Now, somebody said a comment that I really thought was great just a little while ago. Scrolling back here. Guy said, I like your videos anyway. And thank you for that, because sometimes I start to get down and I'm like, man, I don't have the fancy cameras that some dudes have and the fancy lights and stuff. But honestly, that's not what it's about. And I have been pretty happy lately because the videos I have been making, the natural light that comes in this room during the day through the camera on my iPad does look fine. So until I can upgrade, at least I've got a good working system. Not long ago, I didn't even have a lapel mic, and now I do. And I didn't have access to any prestigious, amp modelers, and now I do. So it's kind of like, I think when you're doing something the Lord wants you to do, you start getting equipped. So I just want to say I appreciate you guys being a part of the journey. I know a couple of you are patrons. Not everybody can afford to be a patron. Personally, I couldn't afford to be a patron right now. But for those who can, the option is always there to be involved with the channel that way. And if anybody signs up as a patron this week, no matter what tier, I'll go on and add you to Rumblin' Man Insiders, which is a Facebook group that I'm still kind of getting off the ground, where I'm going to announce things before they happen, poll and stuff. Also, if you're a worship player, or even if you don't play worship music, I also have a Facebook group called Rumblin Man's Worship Guitar and Bass Friends, where we just talk about worship music, chat about what gear guys are using. It's full of guitar and bass players. It's so interesting because I try, to kind of unite guitar and bass just because I do both. And so I did a recent poll on my channel, and it looks like the majority of my viewers are bass players. However, there are several guitar players and ambidextrous guitar and bassists out there as well. So there's going to be plenty of guitar and bass related content. So if you see, me releasing videos about guitar and you're a bass player, don't worry. There's going to be a bass video coming right along soon. Or if it's a microphone thing or a home recording thing or something, and you'd rather hear about, amp modeling, don't worry. I'm going to hit it all. I am working on creating time. Now that I'm filming videos here at home, it's worked out a lot better for my schedule because I was filming in my office, but now I'm right here in the Rumble room, and it's working quite well. So where do I live? I own a home. My wife and I own a home on the Florida Gulf Coast. And so I sit right now about a mile, maybe a mile and a half from the warm emerald waters of the Gulf of Mexico. So I always wanted to be a Floridian and became one. Very cool. So if any of you guys are ever in this area, make sure you give me a shout. I lead worship at a church. I run the channel, play shows at restaurants and things like that, and sometimes back up other people on various instruments and stuff. Thank you, Jay Lopez, Guy, and Sonic Boom for the kind words about the channel. I very much appreciate that. I think more than anything, I want to be a positive impact. Sometimes I do have a negative thing to say. Sometimes I will say the interface that came with this Tonor mic did not work. Sometimes if someone disses me in a comment, I may do the wrong thing and diss them back. And sometimes I may say, you know what, Taylor guitars, their electronics suck. But I say it all with a good cause because I realized not long ago that it is better to give all the facts, not just some of them. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do. And behind everything, there is a greater purpose. And you brothers of mine know what that purpose is. So let's live it out and let's walk it out. Want to say a huge thanks to you guys for being here tonight. Sonic Boom searched my area on Google. Yeah, man, the beach that I live near is Indian Rocks Beach, Florida. Having a great time here. Chardons, thank you for your kind words about the show. Thank you for the blessings as well. I very much appreciate that. God bless you and all you guys out there as well. Much appreciated. I appreciate the encouragement. So make sure you stay in touch. Make sure if you are on Facebook, make sure you're with me on Facebook, on Instagram, here on YouTube. Let's keep doing things. Let's keep reaching people with a positive message, uniting guitar and bass players, helping people with great info. I'm just trying to produce the best videos I can. Things just seem to get better and better and better, which is a blessing from the good Lord above. Sonic Boom says, be honest. There are too much everything is positive channels on YouTube. That is true. That is true, Sonic Boom. And so about a year ago, when I started really getting hot and heavy with doing reviews again, I started thinking, you know what? If I don't like something about an instrument, maybe I'll just respect the company and just talk about what I do like. But then I started realizing, you know what? It bothers me that there's something wrong with this instrument to me. Like, for instance, I reviewed a PRS SE guitar, and, I didn't endorse it at any point in the video. I didn't say, I think you should get this. But quite honestly, I mean, I had to tune it 30 times while I was filming. So somewhere along the way, I realized I got to have pros and cons. If something is wrong, I'm going to tell you, because I don't want you to think that I like everything about something and then go get it because I didn't relay the things that I didn't like. So I am working to make sure I get all the info to you. So guys, thank you for the chat tonight. Thank you for the kind words and comments. Let's do this again soon. I'll make sure I'll announce it on all my social media. Just want you to know, you could never know how much I appreciate you being devoted to the channel and being part of it. So God bless you all. Have an awesome night, and let's all do our best to have a positive day tomorrow, no matter what we're facing. Peace be with you.